Thank you for joining this webinar on automation flows. My name is Anders and I am a partner success manager here at Actimo, where I help clients get the most use of our system. So why automations in Actimo? So automations is where you can automate message flows to new or existing contacts, and that could also be groups, in fact. And basically, you use automations when you like to send the right messages at the right time to the right audience. But it's also very important for me to emphasize that automations is some of the more complex stuff that you can do in Actimo. So it is not necessarily advised to do every time that you would like to send out more than just one message. Which leads me to the next slide, when to use automations. So as a rule of thumb, you use automations when you have generic message flows. This means when you have a pattern of messages going out at a specific time, and you can use that pattern again and again and again. This is why we often see automations being used in use cases such as pre-boarding and onboarding. This is where you as a company or as a department would like to make sure that new employees get fast up to speed, that they are onboarded properly, and they are welcomed in a professional manner. I'll get back to the onboarding scenario where you have an automation regarding onboarding. We also see automations being used for trainings in Actimo. This is where you can build a gamified academy with trainings. So for example, that could be training of front-end staff, where you train them in several Actimo messages regarding procedures, where you follow up each training with a question, for example. And maybe this is important for all the front-end staff, and therefore you can build an automation to connect all those messages and use it every time new front-end staff gets in their position. The third use case I would like to emphasize is the tell a friend function. We all know the value of word of mouth, where you can use your network or your audience to engage their audience on their network. You can trigger an automation based on how you sign up a new colleague or a new friend. The fourth use case I would emphasize is events. This is often we see automations being used in the events cases. So imagine you're having an event and you would like to send several messages to your audience before the event. This could be practical information or how to get there. And during the event, you send them another message saying, this is where you go to, this is where your workshop is being held. And the day after the event, you follow up with a survey question or survey message saying, how was it to attend the event? So then you use automation here to connect those messages together. So let me get back to the pre and onboard flow that I mentioned before. This could illustrate how I, as a new employee in my new workspace, is greeted by my new employer. So the day that I signed the contract, I get my first message. This is the message to your left. It says, welcome aboard. I get the personal video message from my manager, who tells me about what the organization is about, what I can expect, and what the company values are. This makes me feel welcomed. The middle message illustrates when there's 2 days to my start date, I get a new message where I get to meet my new team members, where I can feel the team spirit from the message. And I will get back to how you, using an automation in a very clever way, can use the start date functionality. And the day I start my first day at my new office, I get access to the employee app, which is the third message in the line. and it's also triggered based on my start date. So before I get to illustrate to you how you create those automations, let me go to the foundation and the building blocks of an automation. So how it actually works. As I mentioned before, it can be quite complex, but the building blocks are fairly simple. You have a trigger message and you have a start rule. So those are the two actions that get the automation rolling. So for example, the start rule could be when the trigger message that you have selected, when that is sent, then the automations get going. It could also be, so here the start rule would be the message is sent. I will show you in the platform in an instant, but you could also specify, for example, when a contact has been created from the selected trigger message, then trigger the automation. And I will use that specific start rule to illustrate to you how you can sign up new people. On the start rule, we have action. So action is usually the next message in the line being sent. So action often equals send the next message. But before the next message is sent, it has to accommodate the rule before the first message going out and the second message going out. So here we have a rule that determines when the next message should go out. So let's jump to the platform to see how that can be done. As I said before, I am now going to illustrate to you how you can sign up a new employee, and that will trigger an automation for that new contact. So what I have here is, you recognize the platform. Currently, I'm in the message overview here. What I would like to show you is a message I have created where I sign up a new employee. I have opened it up in a new tab here. So here I can enter info on new employee to get his or her journey started, which basically means trigger the automation. So let me just type in a random name. That could be John Doe. I could also insert my employee number that each employee refers to within the company. That could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And obviously I need to insert or type in the phone number. This is just a demo, so I'll just type in a gibberish mobile number. But please note, this is very important for onboarding purposes. I have created a custom field called start date. And unlike the other ones that are basically just text strings, an automation is a date. This means that I can use an automation to act according to the start date. So now I have to specify the start date of John Doe. Let's say this is Monday, 13th of November at 8 o'clock. So I can be very specific when his start date is. So what I do now is I submit, and I have actually created a group. So every time I submit a new contact, he will end up in the group. So I hit the button and it says the employee will now receive a welcome message. Okay, but let's just have a look at the automation now. So I go down, find automation here, which leads me to the two automations that I have created. So I go to the pre and onboarding, and this is how it looks like. So as I mentioned before, we have a trigger message and we have a start rule. The start rule says contact is created or updated. And that is attached to the trigger message, which you find up in the upper right corner. It's very important that you attach a message to the automation, otherwise it will not get activated. So I hit this here, and I have selected only one message, which is to sign up a new employee. So this is the only message that can activate the automation. So just to sum up, when a contact has been created or updated through the message that I call sign up a new employee, then the automation will get going. And I can actually double check if that's the case, because remember, I just signed up John Doe. So if I go to John Doe, I find him in the group that I've just created. You can see there's one recipient there now. I just created him just before. And when I hit his contact, simply click, you can see, actually, I see all this information that I signed up, but I would like to drag attention to automations here. You see there's a one sign here. This is because there's a pre and onboarding. This is the automation that he's currently attached to. This was when it was created, and its status is it's running. All right, this means that it's wait the next rule in the automation. So let's go to the automation to see what the next rule is. This is the automation. So currently John Doe is here. He's down the line now. He's waiting to fulfill this rule. This is the rule. I hit this here. So currently you can see the rule that I have specified. I can select from various ones, and I'll get back to other ones later. But now the rule says if the contact is a member, it has a membership of the group here, which I call new employees November 2017, then do the action. And the action here is send the next message in the line, which is welcome on board. So currently, John Doe has received already the welcome on board message. So this is the last action. Then it goes to the next rule. Next rule here, if I double click here, it has a time delay function. Instead of contact info, group info, I have time delay. So I say wait 2 days before contact field start date. So remember before I selected Monday 13th of November. So it says 2 days before that day, send out the meet your team message. And again, when this message is sent out, it waits to the next action in the automation, which is sending the employee app. But wait, I have to get this out the very day that the new employee gets started, which obviously is the start date. So I just say wait 1 minute, or that could be 1 hour after the start date, which is Monday 13th of November. And I also specified it was 1 minute past 8, he will get the employee app. So this is a very generic and very clever way of doing a pre and onboarding automation in Actimo. Let me go back and try to make another use case for you. I would like to show you how you can make an automation to send to different groups. So depending on your group membership, you get a certain message. So the use case here, I select my new automation. The use case is, imagine you are a company. Your company sent out a general information message to all employees. You send out to managers, you send out to staff, and you send out to students. But after the general message has been sent, only the messages relevant for managers, students, and staff needs to have the specific message. So please note that in this automation that I have created, I have selected another start rule. Instead of the one I used before, which was contact created or updated, I'm now saying message sent. So what message is it I should send before sending out or activate this automation? Well, I can check in my upper right corner to find my message or my trigger message. And here I have created a message that I call company day in brackets sent to all. So I know this needs to send to the entire company. This means that when I send this message to the entire company, to all the different people, all the groups, then it will activate. So this means that if you are, you can notice there's 3 different rules here. If I am a member of the student group, I will get the message, the action, which is message called student info. And after 1 day, and this is just time delay as we saw before, wait 1 day after last action, and the last action was this message being sent. Then send survey message. And please note this is red and the others are blue. The red illustrates that the automation stops at this red action here. So if I happen to be a part of the managers group instead, I would get the manager info message right here and wait one day to get the survey message. And lastly, if I happen to be part of the staff group, I would get the staff specific info. And after that, the survey would be sent to me. So this is a way of use an automation to send to different groups. I'll go back to my presentation now. And to do the checklist. So when you are doing automations yourself, you can very much benefit from this checklist. So ask yourself, is there a trigger message attached to the automation? And you check that by go on the upper right corner here. And you can select more than just one message actually. Is the right start rule selected? The start rule is always the green box here. So currently message sent, because this makes sense. I could also have selected message opened. This means that when you send out to your recipients, they need to click the link in the SMS or open their email in order for them to accommodate the start rule. Are actions and rule consistent? Actions are usually sending a message, but I could in fact also select other actions. I could update a contact. I could add or remove a contact to or from a group. And I could also add or remove tags. So tags is something that you attach to the contact. And you should always check these SMS text. And so SMS text is obviously that it needs to be appealing. It has to be written in a way so people feel like they have to hit the button, right? But it's important for me to emphasize that an automation right here, an automation does not overrule the individual message. An automation is basically just a way of connecting the different messages and make sure that they go out in a specific order. But this means that if you have a message that is not allowed to go out, neither on SMS or email, then the automation cannot force the action to go through, because end of the day, it's the individual message here, settings, that overrules. And if you're not sure what I mean by that, I can go find the message, I go to message overview, and it could be the message that I opened up in the tab before. And I decide my delivery settings in the send function here. And you can see this one is neither allowed to go out on SMS or email. This means if I include this message in my automation as part of a message going out, then the message will never go out to my contacts, despite the automation stating so. And this is because, again, the individual message overrules. And then, as a lot of you who are tuning in today, you obviously would like to test the automation yourself. And it's very important for me to emphasize that contact cannot go through an automation twice. We have made this procedure to make sure that a contact isn't getting spammed by an improper automation. So if you would like to test an automation and send it to yourself, what you have to do is you go and delete the automation history on your contact. This means if I go back and find John Doe, you can see that John Doe, this is John Doe's contact information. His automation, he's currently on this automation. But if if this was completed or in fact still running, I would not be able to resend this automation to John Doe. So if I were to test it again and send it to him again, I would have to delete the automation history. And I click yes. This means there are currently no running automations for this contact. So now I can resend or try the automations for John Doe again. So this is what I mean by the contact cannot go through the same automation twice. So if you've one day tried to get an automation fixed and it doesn't seem to work, please go check on your contact. If you already completed the automation, that is why it doesn't work anymore.